And you know, today's Father's Day. I just thought, what a great video to have for Father's Day. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Sydney grabbed an iron skillet and beat her mother into submission before plunging a steak knife into her neck over 30 times.
You know, that is not what we call a mitigating factor. That's called an aggravating factor.
Her mom and her were best friends. They did everything together. Like one of the
Yeah, I mean, they went and shopped for cutlery together, you know, and, they had knife fights every once in a while, but it never really got out of hand.
Cops are on the way. The hysterics started. Is she still attending?
Gee, is that a red flag? The cops are coming? Oh, 30 stab wounds in her fucking neck. That is one pissed off little child.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Guess what? I'm your board-certified criminal defense lawyer. Your very own personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer, and you know who you are. I'm here at your service, doing a service with the content genius. Today is Father's Day, and what worse Father's Day could you have if you realized that your daughter was the actual killer? Oh my God. Can you imagine? This is a Dr. Insanity video that we're going to react to. I haven't seen it, but I can't imagine anything worse than finding out your daughter is the real killer. And imagine the conflict you have as a parent. Shit, my daughter is in Dutch. On the same token, you know, I can't like not do something about it, you know, and I haven't seen the video yet. But before we get to the video, we're brought to you by eforms.com. eforms.com for any kind of document you need to get into court or out of court. Avoid guys like me. And if you need a rental agreement, you need a purchase agreement, you need a business agreement, you need any kind of form, legal form, you need a bill of sale if you're selling a car, you trying to kick somebody out of your rental home, you got an eviction. So, and I've used all of these forms on my grandmother who's living in my basement. I can't get her out of there, but you know what? You gotta love her. So go to eforms.com. They're a great supporter of our channel, and I'm telling you, it's an excellent way for you to get a leg up. Just to protect yourself, if you got any kind of business dealing, if you have the document in writing, the documents don't lie. You'll avoid court and avoid guys like me. All right, so let's get into this. You know, especially whenever you're dealing with a homicide, that's when the stakes are the highest.
She's in the ground. So there's...
Who is it?
My mom!
This man has just been...
All right, so her mom is the victim, and this is the husband.
This man has just been told that his wife has been murdered. However, he never could have expected that it was his daughter that was responsible.
What happened? Your wife and daughter got into an argument. She's going to jail forever. Wife's dead. I lost two.
On March 3rd,
Think about that. Think about that. You lose two people in one breath like that. You know, whenever you're dealing with high emotions, you know, you can lose somebody at the blink of an eye. You've got a situation where the emotions are running high and your violence is fueled by just pure, raw emotion.
2020, Ohio police responded to a 911 call at an address in Akron and found Brenda Powell on the floor of her kitchen with 30 stab wounds in her neck. Her daughter...
Okay, 30 stab wounds in her neck. You're not going to that party. What the fuck? 30 stab wounds in her fucking neck. That is one pissed off little child.
Sydney was in the house at the time and told police this was a home invasion turned brutal murder. But even though Sydney was injured as well, there were still questions left unanswered. Things weren't...
One of the things that forensic scientists can tell, or forensic pathologists can tell, what are defensive wounds, what are offensive wounds, what looks like self-inflicted wounds, and they can tell a lot in a struggle by the actual science of the injuries.
Adding up for the cops. Brenda was on the phone with one of Sydney's college professors at the time she was attacked, and during that call, she suddenly started screaming before the phone went dead. When he called back, the voice on the other end of the phone claimed to be Brenda, but the college professor knew this was a lie and suspected Sydney was pretending to be her mother. Fearing the worst, he called 911 and the first responders arrived in no time.
What do you suppose could be coming from the college that was so horrific that it sparked whatever it sparked? If in fact it did. Was she not going to class? Was she not going to school at all? I mean...
This scream, combined with being called to the location, is enough probable cause for the police to forcefully enter the home. And this is what was waiting for him when he walked inside the house.
So whenever police enter a home, they have to have a warrant, unless there's an exception to the warrant requirement. And if there's, doing a well check, heat and hot pursuit, if they're... And when they hear if an existing crime is going on at the time, set of circumstances that doesn't require it's an exception to the warrant requirement.
Akron Police! Akron Police! Where's your mom at?
Most of the time when somebody says somebody broke in, it's bullshit. It just is.
Where's your mom at? Okay, stay right here.
No, there's so much blood. No, please. Man. She's in the court now. No. Stop.
We gotta figure out what's going on. Can you sit down? R9, get that 32 rolling here quick. We got a female down, blood all over the place. Sergeant Smart, you guys got a crime scene. Take her outside. You got she's blood all over. I don't even know if she's breathing. Secure the scene. She looks like a 22. She looks like she's been down for a while. There's blood all over the place. There's a knife by her head and stuff like that, and there's a huge pool of blood. No, I think she just walked in on it. There's a broken window in the back, so if you can just put up some crime scene tape. As soon as AFD gets here, they're going to...
One of the things, the first thing they look at, okay, is there somebody else's footprint, palm print, DNA, hair? Is there any evidence that somebody else was there? Just a broken window is not going to do it. And generally speaking, if somebody's setting something out like that up, they don't think, look at the Brian Kroberger situation. He may walk from that. And we'll do a reaction to an update on that soon. But in that case, he left his DNA at the scene. There's evidence that he was there. When you're going to see, there's not going to be any DNA. There's not going to be anything. Because if it's a setup, you're not going to have a footprint, a thumbprint, or any kind of evidence somebody else was there.
They're going to pronounce her, I'm sure.
It turns out Brenda hasn't just been stabbed. She's also been hit over the head with an iron skillet, and her injuries are so devastating that her life hangs in the balance.
Stop! Hold on, we gotta figure out what's going on. Come on.
Is she gonna be okay?
Come on.
I don't...
Come on. You just need to cooperate with me, all right?
I want my dad.
Huh?
I want my dad.
What happened? What's going on?
We heard a bang. We heard a bang. And she told me to get out. And then I heard screaming. So I came back and she was on the ground.
Okay.
Bullshit. Because there would be evidence of somebody else there. I mean, you shed DNA all the time, whether it's hair, skin cells, or whatever. Or in this instance, probably a cut of some kind. Or a lot of times under the fingernails, the victims will have the perpetrator's DNA.
You heard a bang.
There was a bang. Someone broken.
What is your name?
Sydney.
Are you cut?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you're cut somewhere.
I don't think so.
Yeah, your hand.
No, I was helping her. I grabbed her.
All right, stop.
I grabbed the knife.
Yeah. What's going on? I don't know. We just got
I'm the dad.
Okay,
Sydney.
what's...
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sydney appears to have been injured as well, is suffering from shock, and struggling to hold herself together. Even the arrival of her father, Steve Powell, doesn't calm Sydney down. Police need to lock down the crime scene and try to figure out exactly what's happened.
The back window's broken in.
So you're gonna have to...
Daddy!
The officer's inside there, so...
Yeah,
She's got minor cuts.
Inside the house, there's a broken window and the knife used to stab Brenda. But something isn't quite right, as the broken window had blood dripped on the outside of it, leading police to conclude it could have only been broken after Brenda had been stabbed. However, Sydney claimed that the intruder used the window to enter and was broken before the attack, leading to the first of many inaccuracies in her story.
Interesting. Okay, do we know who, where, which way?
That is the younger guy. I'm looking through here and I can see pictures. And there's a whole basement set up for what looks like.
Yep, hey, sorry, I'll call you right back. Bye. Alright, let me go report that.
Yeah, there's guys. It's probably his brother.
So one of the things that you got to look at when you determine what she's going to be charged with, because it's circumstantial at this point, right? Because there's no direct evidence that she did this. And so you look at the circumstances surrounding it. Were they having a dispute? Is this murder one? Did she pre-plan this? Probably not. But at some point, and premeditation can form in an instant. So, if at some point the stabbing is 30 stabs to the fucking neck, I mean, that's a lot.
Well, I'll see if we can find out who else lives here.
With such a serious case with so many unanswered questions, the cops spend some time talking with homeowners nearby. They have to try and collect as much information as possible, but right now, the only person making any sense is Sydney's father.
Okay. Do you live here, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my wife and there's my daughter.
How old's your daughter?
She'll be 20 in March. She's 19 today.
And today's Father's Day. I just thought, what a great video to have for Father's Day. I mean, Jesus Christ. You've got a situation where, you lose your wife. You're going to lose your daughter because she offed your wife. And now you're just, I mean, what would you do as a dad and a husband? I mean,
Is she coming out?
Yeah. No, not yet, sir. Just kind of hang out.
Sydney, can you tell me what happened? Huh? Sydney. Sydney.
On its way?
Yeah, it's coming.
From where?
Yeah, that's them right there. I can hear them.
Hey, boss. Female hair.
While trying to piece this puzzle together, police speak to Steve Powell and one of Sydney's friends down at the station, in the hopes that they may be able to help them shed some light on exactly what happened. But unfortunately for Steve, he has absolutely no idea Sydney is the attacker, or even worse, that his wife is in critical condition at the hospital and likely won't survive, something detectives will have to break to him sooner than later.
Who'd you get a call from? Yeah. Got a call from him, called me. Oh, okay.
He said there was a call, went out, a distress call from the University of Mount Union where my daughter was going, and said, female in distress. I said, well, that's funny because Brenda's there, my wife. So I called Brenda, and it rings and rings on the cell phone, no answer. I call Sydney back, rings and rings and rings, no answer. I call Brenda back, ring, no answer. I'm pacing around. I call G back, and I'm on the phone with him, telling him there's no answer. My doctor calls me back and said, "Oh, Mom's on the phone with Mount Union." I said, "Well, cops are on the way." And she went, "There's gonna break in," and she just started going off. She said, "What?" She said, "There's been somebody."
that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, first of all, Mom was not on the phone with the Mount Union College professor. Sydney was. But she's on the phone and the cops are coming at the same time. The professor had already hung up the phone with her, and he's the one that called the cops.
He broke into the house. There's blood everywhere. She was hysterical and crying.
So at first, when you talked to her, she said that your wife was on the phone with Mount Union.
Yes.
And
And as soon as I said, cops are on the way, the hysterics started.
Is she still attending?
Gee, is that a red flag? The cops are coming? Oh, shit. But what'd you think if you stab your mother 30 times in the neck? Ugh.
Well, As far as we knew up until today, yes, but apparently not for the last, I don't know, maybe couple weeks.
What did I tell you? I've not seen this, and what did I tell you? She's freaking out because all of a sudden she's not going to school anymore. Mom and Dad are still paying for fucking school. Oh, I guess, she's ripping Mom and Dad off.
What Sydney hadn't told her parents was that she'd been kicked out of college weeks before this happened and had been lying to them ever since. But she did tell her friends, including Lauren, who lived in the same dorm.
Now, we understand that
Let me just tell you something. That kind of shit can happen to anybody. Not really, but it can happen. And whether it's that or whether it's some other big thing that happens, and all of a sudden you lie about it and you keep that lie going and going and going and going, and pretty soon, before you know it, the lie comes out. And when all of a sudden something dramatic like this happens, she's in way more fucking trouble now than she would be if just the lie about getting kicked out of college.
Sydney was your roommate at Mount Union?
Yes, she was for last year and then this year until she left.
And so you've been friends ever since your freshman year at St. B?
Mm-hmm.
Go over each other's houses, everything like that?
Yep. Well, she started off in exercise science freshman year, her first semester. But then she didn't like the classes, so she switched over to psychology and sociology. But then she didn't really like that, so this year she switched to education, and then she didn't like that either, and that's one of the reasons she left, is because she really couldn't find what she liked. I think she struggled in her classes. I don't think her grades were the best, but she didn't really tell me that because I wasn't really struggling. I think she kept a lot of stuff hidden because when we were just talking or with our friends, she always seemed happy. Like, she seemed okay.
One of the things that happens, and whether it's this or any other kind of antisocial behavior, people do it in the dark. And what happens in the dark comes to the light, no matter what the fuck it is. I've been there, you've been there, everybody's done something in the dark at one point in their life that they weren't proud of, but it always comes to the light. The best policy is an honest policy, and take your fucking medicine. Whatever that happens to be.
I said I couldn't tell until the end where she was kind of just struggling, and she kind of was sad and just Lauren, I don't know what to do. I think she felt like everybody around her kind of had figured out what they wanted to do, and she hadn't.
Establishing Sydney's state of mind leading up to the incident will help detectives find out if she simply snapped or if this was premeditated. The issue is, Sydney is going to claim that she actually has no idea what happened throughout this entire case. In fact, she's going to base her entire defense on the fact that she blacked out and even claim insanity using this. This means the
Okay. That doesn't fly, and I'll tell you why it doesn't fly. Just because of the whole lies that she's doing and the shit she's keeping on the down low from her parents. That whole cloud of dishonesty is going to really get in the way of any kind of mental health defense. That, and there's no history of mental illness.
Cops still have no solid proof that Sydney is the guilty party, but they're starting to discover she was hiding secrets from just about everyone.
Well, I know she's had anxiety for a while, but I think those this last semester, starting coming back in January, is when it really started, that she was kind of more upset because she really didn't know what she wanted to do with it. My friends and I were worried for her because we didn't know what was going on, because she didn't tell us, and
Lauren knew something was wrong and tried to help. At first, she had no reason to doubt her and was as supportive as any friend could have been at a time like this. But even Lauren grew suspicious of Sydney's evasive behavior.
I could tell she was getting more upset, more sad. And I told her, I'm here, you can tell me, I'm here for you. If you need anything, I'm here. But she never really opened up until she was leaving and saying that she was struggling in school and that she was kind of trying to figure out what was going on, and that's when I started to try to help her.
Let's talk about this. You're her best friend, and I know this is difficult, but tell us about her relationship with her parents.
Her and her parents had a really good relationship. Her mom and her were best friends. Probably, they did everything together.
Yeah, they went and shopped for cutlery together, and they had knife fights every once in a while, but it never really got out of hand. Fuck.
The reason she went home was to be with her mom. They were always close. She never said anything bad about her mom. She never ever talked about having an argument with her mom. Like, I can't recall every time she'd be going home, she's like, I can't wait to see my mom. Or when she goes home for weekends, she'd be like, oh, my mom wants me to come home so we can hang out and like watch movies. And she loved being home.
By this point, Sydney is becoming wrapped up in a lie that she's going to struggle to escape from. But instead of owning up, she decided to make out as if college just wasn't working out for her and tried to convince her parents that they could save a lot of money on college bills if she left to pursue other things.
What's going on? Are you not going to school? She goes, I'm overwhelmed in school and I don't really like what I'm doing and it seems like it's a waste of my time and your money. I said, well, but that's all part of it. Nobody's going to tell you you need to do what you're doing when you're 20. You need to figure it out.
But that's not what she told her friends.
So when she's talking to you about, the problems she's having at school, did she mention that she tried talking to her parents?
Yeah, I know she definitely, especially when she left, she talked to her mom about leaving. They kind of made that decision together to leave Mount. Like, she told them that.
Lauren's suspicions were proved to be right, and Sydney was lying to her friends. But at the same time, she was also lying to her parents, who knew nothing of her problems at college until they received a phone call from Sydney's professor. So Steve and Brenda began crisis talks to find out exactly what was going on with their daughter.
So I went back, I called my wife from my daughter's phone. She picks up, she was working down at Children's. And she goes, what's wrong? And I basically told her, I said, Sydney, I think the reason we can't get on is because she's unenrolled. She hasn't been going to school.
Sydney became wrapped up in two sets of lies. The story she told her friends and the story she told her parents. Failing grades.
And that calculation takes away any kind of blackout. I had a blackout. I didn't know what happened. It was, the bus driver did it. I don't know what happened. This whole calculation of the lies takes away any kind of... Because when you have a mental health offense, it's out of your control. This is within her control. We did a video a while back where the kid had asked his mom. He said, I don't remember anything. And then all of a sudden he let it slip that he remembered sharpening the axe. If it wasn't so crazy and so out there, it would be funny.
Grades aren't the end of the world, and any parent would support their child through such difficult times. But it seems she thought her parents would be mad and couldn't bring herself to tell them she'd been asked to leave the college.
Yeah, we asked her she was doing, and she said she was good. Like, she acted like what we would see as normal. Like, she was laughing, she was having fun. She said she got jobs, because she worked at the Akron Rubber Ducks. She's worked there for a couple seasons, so she was going to go back there. And then she also said she was looking for another job and like everything was good and she was trying to figure out like for next year and all this stuff and she was going to talk to her parents about housing, trying to come back to Mount.
Once she got to Mount Union, or anytime actually, did Sydney ever drink alcohol at all, or she did? Mm-hmm. Okay, just kind of describe that for us.
She liked to drink. There was an incident in the fall of our freshman year where she drank too much and she wasn't alcohol poisoned, but she did end up in the hospital. Her mom came and got her at like 2 a.m. Usually after that, her and I were together and if she did drink, I usually kind of like slow her down after kind of her limit because she's small.
Detectives suspect Sydney snapped when Brenda was on the phone to her college professor and tried to cover up her lies by silencing her mother forever. The issue is, again, Sydney is claiming that she doesn't remember a thing, but it seems that she made some crucial and careless mistakes that let the detectives pick up the pieces. Sydney grabbed an iron skillet and beat her mother into submission before plunging a steak knife into her neck over 30.
That is not what we call a mitigating factor. That's called an aggravating factor. When you have these, and I'm sure the autopsy photos were just horrific in this case. You got 30 wounds on the neck, and you got her, a cast iron skillet injuries, blunt force trauma on her head and face. When you look at the forensic analysis of what's going on through the autopsy, they'll determine cause of death, and cause of death and manner of death are two different things. Cause of death is homicide, death of another. Manner of death is the stab wounds and the blunt trauma. They'll count each and every one stab wound. They'll figure out how deep they were. They'll figure out which is the fatal blow, And so when you sit there and make shit up, the science ain't going to support what you're doing, especially if you're just a college kid who thinks you're smarter than everybody else.
30 times. She then impersonated her mother on the phone and staged a break-in to try and cover her tracks.
Were you able to go in the house at all?
I made it in far enough to see the back fit. When you go into the front door, you come around the kitchen, you go in, you can see there's like a pass-through between the kitchen and the family room. From the back of the house, I could see the right hand, there's 2 big sliding windows. I could see that window was clearly, it looked like it was busted. Went down the hallway probably about 2 feet, just enough to see blood all the way down the hallway.
Sadly, Brenda didn't survive her ordeal and passed away in hospital. The county medical examiner came to the conclusion that Brenda had died from blunt force trauma to her head and stab wounds to her neck. They ruled her death a homicide. This left detectives to deliver the tragic news to Steve that his wife was dead.
So there's 3 causes of death, basically. There's homicide, suicide, accident, and natural causes. And then there's undetermined. So there's actually 5 different findings that they could make. And so here and homicide just means death at the hands of another. It doesn't necessarily mean murder. But I mean, honestly, if you look at this, think about the news he's getting. His daughter's in custody and his wife is dead. I mean, it's just his world is crashing in on it.
Not really bad news. Your wife passed away.
Detectives investigated Sydney's claims that an intruder was responsible, but their findings didn't seem to match her story, and the evidence was painting a different picture altogether. This left detectives with one final devastating task to carry out, telling Steve that his own daughter killed his wife.
What happened? I don't think someone broke into the house. I don't know if your wife and daughter got into an argument, got physical. I mean, the window was broken, but there's no forced entry into the house. Did your wife and daughter ever have like really heated arguments? No. This is not possible. Your son's outside, but he doesn't know what's going on.
My son's here?
Yes.
Would you like one of us to just go be with your son?
I don't know. I don't know. Take your time. There's no rush for anything.
It's simply impossible to imagine the turmoil Steve must be going through at this moment. His wife murdered and his daughter the main suspect. Finally, Steve realizes the detectives might be right, leaving him to deliver the news to his son.
Clearly they think Sydney did this. I lost 2.
She's going to jail forever. Wife's dead.
You know, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they find out exactly what happened. Nothing's definite as of yet. They still have to do their investigating.
Where's Andrew? Is he just sit out there by himself, or is he with?
Would you go with family when they're supposed to be?
Well, yeah, I don't want anybody in here with me when I talk to him. I don't want anybody. I just want me and him. That's legal. I don't care.
You don't want any of us?
I don't want any of you. No, I just want Andrew.
You just come and get us when you're ready.
How awful. I mean, now he's got to tell his son.
You ready with him? They don't know. They haven't told me. They're investigating.
Sydney was arrested and charged for the murder of Brenda Powell. She claimed insanity at first, saying she had almost no memory of what happened, including hitting Brenda with the cast iron skillet and fatally stabbing her. The jury didn't believe Sydney, and she was found guilty on 2 counts of murder, 1 count of felonious assault, and 1 count of tampering with evidence. Sydney Powell was sentenced to life in prison with a chance of parole after 15 years.
Just awful. I mean, I knew that insanity, the insanity of defense hardly ever works. People think, you can just get off by pleading, nutso, or they call it the almond joy defense. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. But it just never works. I mean, I've had, I think, 2 or 3 cases over the course of 26 years where I had a mental health defense that actually worked. This is our reaction to Dr. Insanity. Dad realizes his daughter's actually the killer. So much for a great Father's Day for this guy. My heart goes out to him. It's just terrible to have to deal with such tragedy on every level. Just remember, hug the ones that you love. I mean, just honestly, appreciate the people that you're with. If you have a difficult situation that you're dealing with, work it out. Don't take it out in violence. You don't need to. Life is too short. Love the people that you're with. Love the people that you love. Show them that you love. Prove to them that they can trust you with everything. And we'll see you next year on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. This is, make sure you follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, and sign up for Patreon. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, police is at my god.